putting an end to identity politics. This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.
You know, some owner's going to do that. He's going to say, that guy that disrespects our flag, he's fired. And that owner, they don't know it. They don't know it. They're friends of mine, many of them. They don't know it. They'll be the most popular person for a week. They'll be the most popular person in this country because that's a total disrespect of our heritage. That's a total disrespect of everything that we stand for, okay?
Welcome back, everybody. Kevin Jackson here. Of course, that was the president talking about what would happen for an owner who actually said, if you do this on my team, Jerry Jones, I believe, said this to the Cowboys. You do that on my team, you're out of here. I don't think there's a single Dallas Cowboy who's done that. We chronicled a group of players throughout the league that did something, whether they raised their fist or, kneeled or did whatever. And Donald Trump's right. If the NFL were to crack down on this, it would end immediately. You'd find out just how big of sellouts these social justice warriors are. When it comes, do I cash my check and make millions, or do I go and have to go play in the NFL, play overseas in the World Football League? What happens? Because I'm going to tell you, the majority of blacks that are in the NFL, they do not relate to what Colin Kaepernick is doing. They do not believe in the nonsense and the rhetoric of the left with respect to cops hurting black men or anything. They understand exactly what happens in the hood. I can tell you I understand it. I watched a video the other day. A white kid, a cop, has got this guy down, and he's trying to, subdue him. And the guy reaches up and tries to get something off the cop's belt, and the officer gets up off of him, and the guy stands up like to raise his arms, like, "Hey, I didn't." Pow, pow. Shoots him twice. White dude. And let me tell you why the cop shot him. And it was on the site for cops, and they explained it. They said this guy resisted and tried to grab weapons from the police officer in order to hurt the police officer. It was no longer a possibility of, should I try to subdue him? Now, could he have shot him with mace or pepper spray? Possibly. But he put 2 bullets in him and ended him. Now, if that had been a black dude, even seeing that video, I guarantee you would have been all kinds of hoopla over it. There's a white guy, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the same thing I say to everybody. If a cop is trying to subdue you for whatever reason, he says you're under arrest, because I've had those words said to me. Kevin, I got to put you under arrest. It was the traffic stuff. It turned out to be identity theft, and they thought I'd killed somebody. But the guy goes, Kevin, I got to place you under arrest. I said, no problem. I put my hands out. That was it. And he goes, and it was the time it happened. I said, in fact, I remember it like it was yesterday. I put my hands out. I said, if it's okay with you, can I drive my car to the station? And he was like, well, yeah. And he goes, now you got to follow me. And I remember going, well, yeah, I'm going to follow you. And he went to get in his car, and he took 2 steps, put his hand on his weapon, and turned around and said, you will follow me, right? And I said, I'll tailgate you if you won't give me a ticket. And he goes, okay. And they let me drive my car. Keep in mind, I'm in a suit and tie. I'm leaving Willow Bend, which is a really nice area of Plano, and I'm taking my kid to school who didn't want to be late. So it was the circumstance didn't lend itself to him having to be fearful, but I didn't know I'm thinking it was a traffic ticket, unpaid something or other. I'm thinking, why you got to put your hand on your weapon? But okay. But he goes, you're going to follow me? Yeah, I'll follow you. And I followed him. And I lived to tell the tale. And it turned out somebody had killed somebody using my identity, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Trump also says this. He says, if fans were to leave the stadium, he goes, I guarantee you things will stop. And I mounted a petition over the weekend to say, look, support the president. Don't watch football. Don't go. Empty the stadiums, fellas. Don't go. Don't leave football on your TV. If you got to watch it, go to a sports bar where they're going to have it on, because then it doesn't register on Nielsen. Don't put it on. Folks, let me tell you, America's hearing what Donald Trump is saying. You know, when you think about the NFL and its ratings down massively, and Trump says, well, it's because politics has become more interesting, and that could be true. But the politics of the NFL has become interesting as well. And I want you to think about this. Trump calls out the NFL, and anything this guy calls out is bound to take a hit. Now, I don't remember if he called out Target. I don't remember if he called out Starbucks or whatever else. But when he does call these people out, things change. So I want you to think about this whole thing with the NFL in terms of, say, illegal immigration. Donald Trump says during the campaign as a candidate, we need to stop these these drug dealers and these sex traffickers and all these people from coming over here, and gangbangers. And the left goes, he's calling Mexicans drug dealers and sex traffickers and gangbangers. And Trump's like, no, I'm not talking about all of them, but there's a bunch of them that are here that are doing those things. And they thought, this is going to crush him. And you know what it did? It put the spotlight on illegal immigration. And for the first time in a long time, we started to at least look at it. Now, I don't know where it's going to go. He's talking about building a wall. But here's the point. It's in the discussion. Then what did he talk about? This is one I can tell you I didn't put a lot of thought into. Trade. He says we write these stupid trade deals. Who would write a deal like this? And he goes on this little mini rant about trade. Who does this? Why do you do that? This is crazy. He talks about trade. And you know what we do? He immediately goes and starts dealing with it. He says, hey, we're renegotiating NAFTA. He took away, I don't know, it was $11 billion of lumber contract that was out of Canada. He's talking to Mexico and saying, you're going to build this wall and you're going to start looking, because Mexico's got a $56 billion trade deficit with us. That's a big part of their economy. That's just in trade. That has nothing to do with the money that goes back over from all these Mexican expats that are sending money home. There's a whole lot there. Not to mention the welfare that America gives to Mexico through the UN or the IMF and various other mechanisms. Who do you think's helping the most in Mexico City, in Mexico, where they've had these 2 earthquakes? Who do you think's there doing the most work? Do you think Cuba? Do you think the Russians are? You think the Chinese? Or do you think the North American neighbor to Mexico is? That would be us, by the way. So Trump addresses illegal immigration. We start to look at it. Trump addresses trade. We start to look at it. Trump addresses the Iran deal that was cut. He's going, I'm not going to be in it. Trump addresses the Paris Climate Accord and goes, this is ridiculous. We can't be held to a standard, a world standard where we're just the money bags for it. He addresses the UN and says, look, I think this organization isn't doing what its charter is. Then he goes there and excoriates them and says, how can you dare deal with North Korea the way you're dealing with them and call yourselves a body that wants to prevent war? And so what does the UN do? China responds and says, you know what? The North Koreans can no longer bank with us. Who else can't? Everybody says he's a hothead. He'll jump to. He's not jumping anything. We got a guy blowing up H-bombs underground, and Trump says, China, cut him off. China cuts him off. China sent that coal shipment back. People aren't talking about this stuff, but he's addressing these issues. And now he sets his sights on the NFL. He says, NFL, when did you change? When did you become this organization that instead of focusing on greatness, you started focusing on allowing individuals within individual cancers within your organization to grow and to spread? They don't have a single cancer. They have multiple cancers. And it's just going to spread. They're going to metastasize, and suddenly the body dies. And it's already starting to happen. And he goes into the ratings. You know what it tells you when Donald Trump starts talking about? Look at their ratings. He goes, I watched it for a couple of minutes the other day. just to, catch up on scores or whatever. But he goes, look at their ratings. People have turned you off. And they're turning you off because you're not giving them the product that you promised. Instead of focusing on bettering your product, you've been focusing on social engineering. You think that's the long play, and it isn't. I don't know if they're listening to the president. I don't even care because I'm not watching it. Folks, this is not about a sport. This is about your ideology and who's going to win.
He won't stop until he's the top-rated radio talk show host in America.
What kind of weird competitive freak are you?
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.